Jai Hind, Namaste, good evening.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone, and very warm welcome to all participants attending this meeting, and a special warm welcome to our own member, Director, Corporate and Youth Connect, Rotary Ganesh Natarajan ji, who is among us today as a keynote speaker. I have already muted all participants who will remain on mute mode till meeting is adjourned unless requested to speak. Please use chat box to post your queries and questions. These will be addressed by esteemed speaker immediately after his talk is over. Request all participants to friends, today's club meeting is the first weekly meeting of year 2021, which is starting with a amazing talk on a very interesting topic and on positive note by our fellow Rotarian Dr. Ganesh Natarajan ji. Ganesh ji, once again, very warm welcome. I am glad to share with you all that very soon me and Krishna are going to become grandparents. My elder daughter is expecting. That's why I am presiding this meeting from LA, where we have reached just few hours back today to join our daughter and son-in-law. We need and request for best wishes, blessings, and support from all of you in discharging my duty seamlessly from here. So this is the announcement which I wanted to share with you. This is the new laptop which has been gifted by my younger daughter. So I don't know. I called her. You were talking about the eco, but she confirmed eco is not from our side. So sorry for inconvenience. Today's meeting is very important, and I would like to share with you all. Every month we are going to have one speaker from our own club members. I have already requested Neeruji for February, but Neeruji is telling to postpone it for the March. So next month, February, we are having Bharat Nayan, and we will be having every month at least one speaker from right now. Not taking much time because we are very eager to listen Ganeshji. Now it's time for secretarial announcement. I would like to invite Rotary Prerna Gaikwad Club Secretary to do this honor. Over to Prerna.
Very good morning, everyone. Congratulations, Colonel, first from everyone at the club. We have Deepak ji and Dolly's anniversary tomorrow, and we have Colonel Mishra's birthday on the 24th. So here's wishing them both very happy anniversary and a birthday in advance from all of us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, that's all from my end. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to invite Rotary Neeru Goyal, Director Service Projects, Rotary Club of Pune Riverside, to formally welcome and introduce today's keynote speaker, Dr. Ganesh Natarajan. Over to Neeruji.
Good morning, President Colonel Mishra. I feel really privileged that you asked me to give a formal introduction of Rotarian Ganesh. The highlights of his achievements in short are that he is a serial entrepreneur, author, and speaker. After running two public limited companies for 25 years, Ganesh splits his time in three ways. First, investing and counseling on digital. Secondly, social missions like SVP India, City Connect, and education of girls. Third, large boards like SBI, Hinduja, and Systech California. His professional success can be summed up in one single info that Harvard Business School has written and teaches two case studies on Dr. Ganesh Natarajan. Besides this info, Colonel Mishra, I very well know that you wanted me to throw some light on his informal introduction, considering that I am his neighbor. So I tried to peep in and dig in a bit. Ganesh, being a charmer, first, I tried to find out about his crush or crushes, but wife Uma very nicely said that she was his only crush and ultimately got married. So, here also gauge his capability, friends. What a confidence he is successfully able to create in his wife's mind. His new love nowadays is golf, but music is his passion. His mother was a singer, so music was in the air from his childhood. One responsibility he takes charge in the house very nicely is keeping his library in perfect, proper order all the time. He is a early riser and quite conscious about his and dear wife's health. But wife is often disturbed because of him being on the phone and social media all the time. He prefers dal, roti, sabzi type simple food, but loves trying new cuisines when abroad. Very assertive that his daughter in US should and must take out time to talk to them at least twice a week. Place for everything and everything at its place is what he wants to be followed very strictly in the house. Very considerate about the needs of elders, very touchy also of in the family. At present, he is quite upset about too many cats in our society and researching a solution for the problem very seriously. Otherwise, he is one who remains in happy mood all the time. A cool guy spends his time with substance. So, friends, this is our own member Ganesh.
Thank you, Nidhi, to introduce very nicely to Dr. Ganesh Natarajan. Dr. Ganesh Natarajan, floor is yours. So please take over. Over to you.
Sure. Thank you very much, Kalal Mishra. And of course, thank you very much, Neeru. I think Neeru has been a friend of ours for such a long time that you should not believe anything she says because you always say good things about your friends. And also an honor for me that my first great friend in Pune, Mukesh Malhotra, Tony Vai is here. And he is the person who is single responsible for getting me to join the Rotary Club of Riverside. So Tony, very nice to see you here. And of course, many of my friends from Delhi and Pune and other parts of the country. So thank you all for joining. What I thought I would do is, maybe take half an hour. And when Kalal Mishra asked me to share some thoughts with the Rotary Riverside, I said, Mishra ji, you already invited me a year and a half ago. And he said, nahi, aap kuch naya sunaiye. So the naya sunaiye is, there is so many things new that has happened in our lives. So I thought I should maybe rewind to where we all were in January of 2020. And then take a little bit of stock on what's happening in the world. And that's why if you look at the very peculiar title of this session, it's the impact of COVID, impact of China, impact on the country of various things that are happening. And of course, talk a little bit about, I think, how we all need to be very positive about life. There is a lot of reason to be positive. I'm sure many of you are cricket fans. So yesterday's amazing cricket victory, I was talking to my good friend Amol Palekar. In the morning, we had a bet. I said, we will be lucky if we draw this match. And Amol said, yaar, you people have to be positive. Jeet ke dikhayenge. And then he called me up at 1:30 and said, bola na, wo nahi wala tha. So it is amazing. So there are good things happening. Of course, the great thing happening if you follow American politics is what is happening today in the US. At 10:30 p.m. our time, a new president will be sworn in. And my wife Uma and I were watching CNN this morning. And yesterday, he and, of course, Kamala Devi Harris actually had a memorial function for 400,000 Americans who have lost their lives in COVID. And there is a huge expectation in America that the process of healing not only from COVID, but the process of healing with many people who have been disturbed by the very aggressive Trump presidency, that will also happen. So I think that is really where we are today. So I think I would start on that note of positivism. But let's take stock on some realities. I'll just pull up my presentation. Here we are. I hope all of you can see it. So this is the type that I said, are we ready to serve? When I say serve, I mean serve whether we are in a job or in entrepreneurship or social sector, like my colleague Ruchi, who's on the call, and I are, and enjoy life. I think both these are extremely important. And as Neeruji rightly said in my introduction, I never miss a chance to enjoy life, because I think all of us know that life is too short and we should not get obsessed about worrying about various things. So very quickly, what is the status of COVID? This we all know. I mean, unfortunately, in India, we have been very bad from economy point of view, because the expectation is, I mean, you know that in the first quarter, we dropped GDP almost 25%. Second quarter was much better. And today, the Reserve Bank of India is saying that we should be able to get away with maybe an 8 to 10% decline. But don't forget, my friends, that if we decline 8 to 10%, and next year, if we even grow by 12%, effectively that will mean that we are in the same situation in March of 2022 that we were in March of 2020. So almost 2 years lost. And we all know that we have 400 million Indians who are waiting for this 10% growth every year to happen. So I think it's a tough one. Job losses, we all know. I mean, we may not be talking about it, but even today in the city of Pune and Bangalore and everywhere else, people are losing jobs very, very steadily. I mean, I posted one position we have in Global Talent Track on LinkedIn. I got close to 400 people, very good biodatas, who immediately jumped in and said, can we do this job? And they're willing to work for any salary. So it's a bit of a crisis. And as you know, the ILO said that maybe 200 million jobs will be lost in the crisis. Something to be worried about. We're also, of course, finding, which is interesting, and many of you would have seen it, if not yourself, definitely in your children, your grandchildren. There are new ways of working, collaborating, and managing. Dr. Pushpendra Rai, who's our senior director on the State Bank of India, he has also joined this call. And we keep talking about it, that there was a time when SBI board meetings were always face-to-face. I mean, today, all of us are very comfortable being on WebEx, and people are from all over the country. And while we do meet occasionally, I think it's very unlikely that even board meetings of very high-profile entities like State Bank will ever come back to the fully physical thing again. So I think that's interesting. Interestingly, as many of you will know, there was very high initial productivity, because when people suddenly realized कि भाई मुझे office नहीं जाना है, I can work from home, it seemed very nice, and initially the productivity was very high. But today people are feeling the pains. Okay, I mean, we started going to office in July. Okay, so we haven't had that problem. But many of my friends in Bangalore say, "Oh my God, I wish I could go back to office. वो जो coffee के साथ conversation होता था, that was so much fun. We're missing all that." And of course, all the organization behavior specialists are saying, how do we handle that situation? So there are lots of research going on. I myself am doing a lot of work in that area. But there are issues of alienation and isolation. Of course, the good news is there are blended work methods, as I mentioned. A lot of our work today is on helping universities, helping companies, helping even the social sector. We plan to have 7,000 slum community youth from Pune working on a blended learning mechanism where they will be helped by technology. So everybody is looking at blended work. Something called the gig economy, which you must have heard about. In America, it was very, very popular for a very long time. It still is, where people can work on output basis, which means that I don't have to come to office every day. I can work from home. I can get paid for a project, and I can only work, like many of my friends in America are working maybe 3 or 4 days a week, or sometimes even maybe 20 hours a week, and very happy. And I'm sure Colonel Mishra, your daughter and son-in-law and everybody else are also looking at the gig economy. Payment it's almost like throwback to the 1990s when, if you remember, there was the piece rate scheme in manufacturing, where depending on the number of pieces you made, you got paid for that. Or even in tea gardens, etc., etc. So very soon people will be paid for outcomes rather than just showing up in office. So all these changes have happened brilliantly in the last 12 months. So there's so much change happening, it's almost difficult to count that. Let's talk about China a little bit. China, as you all know, I mean, we had this amazing shock of China suddenly grabbing territory and sitting on top of our own territory in Ladakh. And a lot of questions are being asked saying that, look, and China, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on where you come from, has grown, as you must have seen yesterday, over 2% in 2020. Imagine India declining 10%, China growing 2%. China was also already a huge economy compared to us. And while 20 years ago, India and China were comparable, today China is far ahead. So we have to be very watchful that a big, aggressive neighbor, economically doing better than us, can be a great threat. In fact, five of us are actually writing a book for the Pune International Center. Mr. Vijay Kelkar, former finance secretary, Dr. Mashelkar, and 3 economists. And we've been working on it for the last 6 months. And we are finding that in sector after sector after sector after sector, there is so much to be done, not just in electronics, but in chemicals, rare earths, so on and so forth. And unfortunately, China has a leader, Xi Jinping, who has stopped talking about the Asian century. I mean, he came and had a good time with Prime Minister Modi in Mahabalipuram and then before that in Ahmedabad. But today, he only talks about Chinese supremacy. He doesn't care about India. He doesn't care about America. He doesn't care about the world. So there is a real threat that the US and China will be the superpowers of the future. And many of us will have to worry about where the alignment is going to be. If many of you will remember the non-aligned initiative and the earlier days of the USSR and US. So the country, I mean, the world is going through tough ones. So I'm saying that what we definitely need to do, okay, and I'm glad if some of you who are in industry will know about the PLIs and various things that the government is doing, but we certainly have to pull up our socks. We have to be truly Atmanirbhar and stop depending on China for so many things we import, and we have to become a force to reckon with. So this is the agenda for India. So these are the negatives, and these are the challenges, if I can call it that. Let's look at some of the positives, okay? These are the positives. The world is changing beyond recognition. Many of you are not too old to know that, or not too young to know that there was something called the telegraphs. We used to send telegrams to each other, and telegram number 24 used to be a happy anniversary telegram, etc. And we moved from there to news, watching television, getting worried about what Arnab Goswami is telling WhatsApp. And today, of course, we are now the world of blogging and Twitterati. So, I mean, we believe more from Twitter than what we see. So that's the kind of change that we've seen in communications in the world. If you look at the way writing was done, I mean, this is right from the old days of the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, the Upanishads, which was all about listening to your gurus, etc., etc. And now, of course, it's moved from through that to stenographers, typists, secretaries. And now, of course, I mean, very few people have a secretary. We all use our own computers. We have artificial intelligence agents, which can actually write a letter for you, maybe faster than you could write it yourself. And everything is being changed with technology. Similarly, if you look at the customer service, and we keep discussing that in the State Bank of India also, saying that, you know, the good old days of walking to a bank branch and getting a good cup of tea with the bank manager are going away, because in State Bank itself, we have an amazing app called YONO. And YONO is actually transforming the way even senior citizens are interacting with the bank through technology. So from moving from customer services to call centers to automated agents, again using artificial intelligence, it's called the cognitive call center. I think that's one huge change we are seeing. And finally, if you look at even farming, the most traditional of Indian professions, it's moved from using the plow and the good old Hindi movie examples of farms to very much towards everybody having a tractor, drones. I mean, Bajaj Insurance, for instance, most of their crop insurance is done by sending drones out to inspect the crops. And then based on that, they fix the premium and the policy. So I think all this is happening as we speak. Having said that, let's look at a little bit, and I will try not to get technical at all in this presentation. But if you look at the world of digital, I mean, we've all heard about names like Uber, and Uber, of course, Ola is more popular in India. Facebook, though, I mean, I think many of us and most of us would be using. Alibaba.com, Amazon, of course, was the original predecessor. And Airbnb, which of course is Oyo Rooms in India, which is, you know, so if you look at all these, what is common? You're seeing an amazing phenomenon that none of these companies, which are all multi-billion-dollar companies in the world, own anything. They don't produce anything. All they're doing is using somebody else's asset, giving it to somebody else for some period of time, and making huge amounts of money on it. So the world's largest taxi company is today Uber. The world's largest content owner is Facebook. And as all of us know, we're all worried about, Facebook, mera information share kar dega, Mark Zuckerberg will do something, etc., etc. And it's not even Mark Zuckerberg's information. It's your information, my information, shared by millions of people on Facebook. Similarly, Alibaba and Amazon, as you know, I mean, they are just kind of distributing stuff and making it cheap for you. And there is a joke that in e-commerce, all that these companies are doing is taking money from the pocket of the investor and putting it into the customer's pocket. I mean, which is why most of us are enjoying very discounted goods, free movies on Netflix, Amazon Prime, etc. And of course, Airbnb. I mean, I remember I have a very good American friend, and he was chatting with me and said, 10 years back, Ganesh, if you had told me that I would get up one day and use a car with a driver I don't know, the car I don't know, go to a hotel and stay, and not stay in a hotel, but stay in somebody's house whose room is available for 2 days, I would have thought you're crazy. But this is the way the world is working. It is what they call the shared economy, and the shared economy is here to stay. So I think that's really what we're seeing today. What does it mean? And again, this is the only technology slide I'll use, but you completely ignore the top part. Don't worry about words like sensors, actuators, Internet of Things, mobile technology, cloud computing, vagara, vagara. Go down one step. What is happening is what I said about State Bank, what I said about learning, digital and physical experiences are being combined. And that is what we have to get used to. The Internet of everything, as we call it, meaning everything is connected on the Internet. Your washing machine, ultimately your mind will be connected on the Internet. Let me give you a simple anecdote. I was speaking at a seminar of Indian School of Business, and my co-panelist was an Indian who lives in New York, and he is the coach of the New York basketball team. As all of you know, in America, basketball is one of the 4 great sports. And he was saying, we are now investing in technology where as the basketball player is coming to shoot a basket, and maybe 3 people are coming to block the basket, artificial intelligence will go through all the records of how these 3 people block baskets and will guide him neurally, which means his brain will get a signal, now you turn left and then take the ball there. Real time. So imagine if let's say our friend, Mr. Pant, who was so good yesterday, if he could be prompted by artificial intelligence saying that ye next ball the bouncer ball karne hi wala hai, how much the game will change? Is it good or bad? Would Sachin Tendulkar like to play cricket being guided by a voice in his head all the time? I don't know. But I'm saying all this is possible through technology. That's the Internet of everything. Knowledge work is being automated. Issues like big data, advanced analytics. I mean, it's all about, it's when Netflix says you should watch this movie or people like you enjoy this movie, they are basically intruding. I mean, Neeruji was very nicely talking to my wife Uma about me, but she actually doesn't need to know it. And I'll explain to you in a later slide how Neeruji, if she were comfortable with artificial intelligence, could have got all that information about me without actually talking to Uma. And I'll explain that a little later. And it's because of something called the social matrix. And I mentioned this already, anything is a service. So if you take the top 2 and leave that also, what is it doing for us? What is changing thanks to digital? First is productivity is being massively enhanced. Every factory, whether it is Wakefield or anybody else, will use major amounts of automation and robotics. Second is the experience will be greatly improved. As I said, I mean, today you don't need to go to a theater because Amazon Prime will give you Tandav and you will watch Kajol and Tanvi Azmi on Netflix. So why do you need to go to a theater and watch a movie which you don't know you like or not? I mean, I've been watching one episode on Netflix for the last 4 months. Whenever I feel like, whenever I have 10 minutes, I watch it. So it's like own time, own space, own experience. So that's really what's happening. So let me move on. So this is digital and this is what the opportunity is. What are we seeing here? And this is the example I was telling you. IBM 10 years back came up with a supercomputer called IBM Watson. Now, if I ask any of you what is IBM Watson, you will imagine a koi bada computer hoga, it'll be in a big room, etc. Actually, nothing like that. IBM Watson is nothing but what in jargon we call a large number of APIs, which is application programming interfaces. मतलब आप जो भी कुछ करना चाहें, you can find a Watson API which can make it more intelligent, like the basketball player, like anything. Okay. And I'll give you an example. Like when I said that Neeruji could have checked with IBM Watson, I remember 7 years back, IBM invited me to Bangalore and said, you come and spend an hour. We will explain to you what Watson is all about. So I went to Bangalore. 1 ghante ka meeting tha. So I went to the meeting and like in most companies nowadays, I saw 6 people sitting on their computers, kuch kar rahe hain, and one person was talking to me. After 6-7 minutes, I was beginning to get bored, which I normally do. And then suddenly he asked me a very interesting question. And I said, oh my God, I started thinking about it. And suddenly the questions that all of them started asking me got better and better and better and better. So I thought it's just a strange experience. But later on, I asked my host, this is the experience I had. He says, Dr. Natarajan, you have watched Watson in action. I said, iska kya matlab hai? He said, look, before you came into the room, and literally 10 minutes before, they just gave Ganesh Natarajan to IBM Watson. IBM Watson told you everything that Neeruji said and much more. It also gave them a psychographic profile of me. And he told them that you cannot do your introductions and chit chat for more than 5 minutes. Otherwise, Ganesh will switch off. So at the 6th minute, you ask him this question. Go, this will really get his fancy up. And as I was talking, the conversation was being recorded and being fed back into Watson. And on their computers that they were sitting in front of, each person was being asked, now you ask him this, now you ask him that. So IBM Watson, Big Brother, is actually watching the full conversation and making it more interesting for me. You see the beauty of this? Again, scary, right? I mean, you don't want Big Brother to know everything you're thinking, but that's going to happen. So this slide is about, if any of you saw 2001: A Space Odyssey, a movie released in 1968 by a great futurist called Stanley Kubrick, he talked about a supercomputer called HAL. And HAL had the same features that today IBM Watson has. So I'm saying this is the power of how technology has enabled our dreams to come true, and sometimes our nightmares will also come true. So no doubt about that. Similarly, I mean, I don't know if any of you have seen this woman called Sophia, the one on the right. Sophia is actually a humanoid, and she was invented, I think, almost 3 years ago. We actually got Sophia to come to a IT conference in Mumbai about 2 years ago. And all of us talked to Sophia. And I was chatting with Sophia, and Sophia was actually interacting with me as though she knew everything. And India mein to India hi hai. So one Bombay guy, as usual, went up and said, Sophia, mujhse shaadi karogi? And Sophia says, I don't understand what you're saying. Okay, it's very, almost like she was ignoring him and giving him a rebuff. So it's very, very interesting. In fact, you may be aware that Sophia, when she spoke in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia, the king of Saudi Arabia actually appointed her as the first humanoid citizen of Saudi Arabia. So Sophia is actually a humanoid who's there. And similarly, the character of Sophia was predicted in a movie called Eva, and very similar. She even looks like Eva. So I'm just saying, so much of science and space fiction is beginning to happen. So let me move to the last part of my presentation. See, okay, now we've looked at this. We have seen what I call the pull down that is happening because of the Chinese threat, because of COVID, because of so many concerns we have with everything. We've seen the great opportunity that digital technology gives to us, which clearly is something that, you know, in 10 minutes, I try to do what we normally do in 3-day seminars on understanding digital. But taking this together, what is the need of the times? We meet hundreds and thousands. As you know, most of our companies are around skilling young people. And so is Pune City Connect, and now our agenda and a national initiative we are doing is to have almost 1 million, 10 lakh people who are trained, skilled, and given new jobs by us. And we are finding that all the jobs of the past are going away. A factory worker's job will be replaced by a robot. A computer programmer's job, which was so popular when I was doing my graduation, is being eliminated because robotic process automation will do the programming, will do the testing. And young people come and ask us, ki abhi hum kare kya? Because what I've learned in a Symbiosis or a Vishwakarma is basically core technology. But if you're saying technology will be done by robots, then what will we do? So Uma and I have actually done this full research on what are the future jobs. And I mean, we will certainly send you this presentation. You can share it with the younger people in your community. So if you look at the winning skills for the digital era, very interestingly, the skills that you're seeing there are very important time-honored skills. Which is, when you see one thing called digital skills, which is obvious. But one of the biggest skills is what we call storytelling skills. I mean, many of you know, and Neeruji knows, that I grew up in a little village in Jharkhand. And I was studying in a missionary school called Bishop Escott, which was 5 kilometers away from my village. And I remember class 8, mein mujhe laga ki mujhe bhi IIT jana chahiye. Somebody told me about IIT. And I went and talked to my Anglo-Indian principal. The gentleman's name was Fitzgerald. And we used to call him Fitzy. I told him, Fitzy, I want to get into IIT. So Mr. Fitzgerald looked at me and smiled and said, boss, you're studying in a little village in Bihar. That was in Jharkhand then. And we don't think you will be able to get into IIT, but don't worry. We will make you successful in life. I said, I mean, why can't I get into IIT? And he said, boss, your physics, maths, chemistry, theek hi hai, but it's not at IIT standards because we haven't had the teachers in this village to teach you that. But we have a full Anglo-Indian community of teachers who have taught you very, very good English. And I remember asking him, sir, with English, what am I going to achieve in my life? He said, when you're 60 years old, you will look back and say, it is my communication skills that made me successful. And that is so true. Okay, across my career in manufacturing, consultancy, education, training, today investing in the social sector, it is our willingness to communicate, our ability to communicate, and our capability to communicate. I think that makes it. So that is going to be what you see the third thing there called storytelling skills. Good storytellers, ye nahi ki jhoot bolna hai, but good kahanis, good stories are what is going to make the difference. And many of our Rotary speakers, as you know, why you listen to them is they tell you good stories. Unka content bahut hi acha hoga, but what you really want is koi acha kahani sunao, jisse hame matlab samajh mein aaya. I think that's really what's happening. Similarly, I think analytical skills, I won't get into the whole list. Presentation skills, how to create good presentations. Ajkal nobody makes PowerPoints with, four bullet points on one slide. Very boring. You have to show pictures, you have to show video. That's really how it works. So this is one important thing. And how will people acquire these skills? I mean, this is the kind of work we do. So we actually have a company called Skills Alpha. And the difference between a Skills Alpha and a typical, jaise aapko malum hoga, e-learning tools, jo you can actually download, you read Coursera, Skillsoft, etc., is that it's a fully animated platform. So even today, we are implementing it in the own Lighthouse for Ruchi's company, Pune City Connect. So they will, I mean, as soon as a student or even you as a corporate learner get on to Skills Alpha, a bot is nothing but a little character will pop up and say, oh, like exactly what you see in some of the banks and what you're seeing today in Netflix. He'll come up and say, okay, what do you want to be? And let's say Mr. Jalan will say that, look, I've been a great chartered accountant and great finance man throughout my life, but maybe I now want to see whether I can be the prime minister of this country. So the little bot will go out and look at Mr. Jalan's background, like Watson did for me, and say, this skill you already have. You have analytical skills, you have economic skills, you have everything else. What you probably don't have is political skills, leadership skills. No problem, we'll teach you. And it'll show you where to learn political skills, where to learn the analytical skills you don't know. So a bot or an artificial intelligence device is now managing your journey. So if you now look at this slide, it will take you through teamwork and collaboration. And I'm just using Mr. Jalan as an example. Forgive me, Jalan sir. But I'm saying, then maybe it will enable him to interact with Amit Shah and Rahul Gandhi or whoever else. And you will hear from them how to be more political. Then you can go on through this path. It'll go to any website. I mean, maybe some great speeches of John F. Kennedy. So you can listen to that. So that is what we call contextual curated learning sources. Forgive me, bahut bada jargon hai. But all it means is that you can learn from YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, jo bhi aap seekhna chahte hain. And it'll get you a mentor, it'll get you experts, and all this is happening on your computer. So can you imagine if I were today in Jharkhand and I had this in front of me, I would have gone to IIT. That's the difference. Because the opportunity you don't have because of physical distance is now being made possible through virtual reality. And that is what you see in learning processes and systems of the future. Last few thoughts on India itself. The biggest problem I see in India is huge amount of urbanization. I mean, even in our own industry, the technology industry, almost 97% of the $190 we exports comes from 7 cities. Fortunately, Pune is one of them. But there are just 7 cities. Can you imagine? But today we are saying, and that's true in manufacturing. It's true in, if a Wakefield factory were actually being set up in Jharkhand, I mean, there'd be problem on supply chain, there'll be problem on materials, there'll be problem on skilled labor, etc. So Mukesh and Ashwini and the family will not want to take it out of Pune. Okay, so I'm saying we are all used to a certain physical, digital, social infrastructure, which makes us stick to Pune and Mumbai and Delhi, etc. But the problem with that is, if you look at the bottom left-hand side, there is a growing dissatisfaction in the community because employment is anyway coming down because of automation. Inequality. Today we are happy that, oh, we are living in nice houses. I mean, only Ruchi and I know that there are 550 slum communities in Pune Municipal Corporation. Aapko malum tha? So if you walk 10 kilometers in any direction, you're in a slum. Aur abhi to theek hai. I mean, we are happy that our maid servants come from there, etc., etc. But a day is not far off when, like South Africa, people may be afraid to go out of our walled compounds because we don't know who's going to come and kill us. I'm sorry to say this, but we have to worry about social equity. And social equity will happen when the jobs get distributed. So if you look at the amoeba kind of thing that says future, in future, if you have jobs across maybe at least 700 towns and cities in India, if every village, if every gram panchayat, we have 250,000 gram panchayats in the country, almost 700,000 villages. If every gram panchayat has Wi-Fi, is digitally capable, etc., you might actually find the jobs are getting distributed. Again, one great thing about COVID is my previous company, Zensar, has employed 4 people in Patna. पहले तो वो सोचते भी नहीं, but now they're saying Patna में भी Wi-Fi है, वो Patna से काम करेगा, he's going to cost me less. So the reason why you see those great profits of IT companies is everybody has realized कि boss, this is the opportunity to reduce cost. सबको घर में बैठने दो, no canteen, no transportation, many offices have been given up, and people are saying, okay, now this is the time to increase profits. So that's what you're seeing. So you will see what you see on the top right-hand side. You will see employment widespread, growth more equal. Today, the farmer agitation is largely because the marginal farmers don't have enough land. Collaborative farming might actually take away their rights. That's what they're worried about, not the farm loss. So inequality will come down, and social unrest, which is what we all worried about. I mean, from the 3 stars below that you see, will be very marginal. So this is the land, the future we want to be, where profits, planet, and people is our common focus, and digital age of collaboration, efficiency, isolation, all that is resolved. This is not my slide. It's a slide made by one of my gurus, Mr. Arun Maira. And Arun Maira actually did a lot of work on the distribution of jobs. And this is his slide. What it also means is that if you look at digital India, आप लोग सबने सुना होगा about digital India. What are we saying in digital India? We're just saying that while Prime Minister Modi talks about this $5 trillion GDP, पता नहीं 2024 में होगा कि नहीं, मेरे ख्याल से तो नहीं होगा, but hopefully it will happen 2028, 2029. But digital India, which is the $1 trillion GDP of digital, can happen even by 2025. Yes, because the industry, the IT industry itself will grow from 190 billion to maybe 250, 260 billion. And the IT enabled India, okay, which is what we're talking about. You have all heard about Aadhaar. You all heard about JAM, which was Jandhan, Aadhaar, and mobility. There are now more mobile phones in the country than people. Okay, so which was unimaginable 10 years back when India had less than maybe 100 million mobile phones. But the ubiquitous mobile phone, Reliance Jio, Airtel, so many other things are going to make digital India happen. So what we think should happen, and I'll conclude with the last 2 slides, is should we do it? Basically, what we're saying is we should all be using digital platforms. Not sirf Aadhaar ke liye. Tomorrow there should be a complete agriculture. I have invested in a company called Farm Guru right here in Pune. And they are working in Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, and making seed and inputs knowledge available to everybody on their mobile phone. So the asymmetry of opportunity is created by an asymmetry of information. अगर सबको information मिल जाए, हर पंचायत में यही information मिले, जैसे ITC was trying to do, then we will create a more equitable India. So that's one. Through digital platforms, how do we promote growth and connectivity? How do we use artificial intelligence not to replace jobs? We don't need job replacing AI in India, but to AI to enable people to be more successful. Like I mentioned the example of learning, but even agriculture. Even a marginal farmer can get more productivity if AI tells him, bhai, when should you make wheat and rice, and when can you switch to when can you switch to maybe crash crops, fruit, flowers, etc., etc. And all this can be guided to the farmers in this civilization. I mentioned earlier, right combination of cyber and physical interfaces, address isolation issues, कि सब लोग घर में बैठ के काम करेंगे, तो I think society will go for a toss, and partnering. I mean, some of us like the government, some of us hate the government, but don't forget that, I mean, the reason for our success in Pune City Connect is because of an amazing relationship with Pune Municipal Corporation. And I think Ruchi will be the first to say so, that, I mean, she can walk into Pune Municipal Corporation today. Everybody knows her, because everybody knows that we are doing good work for the community. The commissioner will meet her, the mayor will meet her. Gugavleji, who's the head of the BJP here, I mean, he hosts us for breakfast. Everybody knows कि ये लोग अच्छे काम कर रहे हैं. So I think good people will always collaborate and make things happen. And as I mentioned earlier, Prime Minister Modi in August 15th announced the NOFN, which is a National Optical Fiber Network. And the beauty of the NOFN is, आप कहीं भी जाए, कोई भी गांव में जाए इंडिया में, वहाँ 100 Mbps bandwidth मिलना चाहिए. यहाँ तो हमको पुणे में भी आजकल नहीं मिल रहा है. But I'm saying that is the future of digital India. And of course, make skills development and livelihoods for our people. So let me conclude by saying, how do we live a happier life? 2021 beyond. First, of course, having talked about social networks, we must stay away from excessive social media. the quarrel that Uma and I always have is that she thinks I spend too much time on devices. Kabhi kabhi to I'm on a State Bank board meeting where I have an iPad with all the data and information on one hand. The meeting is happening on the computer. Cricket piche chal raha hai, so occasionally I'll turn around and look at the television screen. There is an interrupt on WhatsApp on my mobile phone. So imagine we're spending time on 4 screens simultaneously. So I think that is something that we need control. Like we are all controlling our diet because of diabetes or whatever else. You have to control the diet of information that goes into your system. That's important. I believe it's never too late to find a physically and mentally rejuvenating hobby. I mean, today I do singing maybe 2 times a week. I used to do it maybe twice a year because, a lot of friends who want to sing and, in a nice protected environment. And Neeruji knows how much, she and I enjoy doing Antakshari. We had one great session in Rotary, but I'm saying that's my hobby. Similarly, my wife Uma has discovered a complete passion for gardening. So today our garden is completely transformed, and everywhere we go, the first thing we go is to the nursery to buy plants. So I think all this is rejuvenating us. The last 1 year has been really good for us because we've rediscovered ourselves. And one of my friends in America was saying, I've suddenly realized that I like my wife. Can you believe this? He said, no, we were so busy. She works in a pharma company. He works in a tech company, and they were not talking to each other. But suddenly because of COVID, they've come much closer together as a family. So it's amazing. So again, I'm a great believer that, everybody should be safe. I think we have to go out. We have to start engaging with community. I'm so glad that Rotary has done these offsites, etc., etc. So long as you're safe, so long as you do this thing, I think we will build a better community. And finally, my last point is we have to live beyond legitimacy. Most of you on this call have lived a good life, have succeeded, as Colonel Mishra in LA is doing. We are now living for our children and our grandchildren. But we all have to find a purpose. We have to leave a legacy. We have to say, कि दुनिया जब हमारे बारे में बात करेगी, they will remember us for something we have contributed to society, to community, to whatever. So I think we have to move out of our own pursuit of internal legitimacy and move towards building an external legacy. Our own legacy, in fact, we are hoping that Uma and I, because the latest book we've written, which is a book called Accelerating Digital Success, actually encompasses all this. So we were talking to our original producer, McGraw-Hill, but then Bloomsbury said, please write this for us. We're actually writing a book which should be published maybe by February, March, which encapsulates all this. How has digital changed organizations, nations, and of course, each one of us. So I think that's something we're looking forward to. That's hopefully our own legacy to young people to live in this world and live successfully. So let me close with my favorite last slide. This is by a philosopher called Joel Barker. He says, everybody talks about vision. Prime Minister Modi talks about vision. I'm sure Biden tonight in his inauguration speech will talk about a vision for a new America. But as everybody knows, vision without action is just a dream. And in India, of course, we have this wonderful word called time pass. Action without vision just passes the time. But vision with action can change the world. So thank you very much, Colonel Mishra. Thank you very much, all of you, for listening to me patiently for 35 minutes. I really believe the future is going to be great. And I'm sure we'll all live it together and be very, very successful. So thank you very much.
Amazing talk, Ganeshi. We all are inspired, and we are, I'm sure that with your talk, a lot of learning is there. And no doubt it's amazing, it's speechless. But part 2 is going to be there, a lot of question and answers. Still time is there. Still 15 minutes are there. So I will request you to take the question answer and moderate yourself. So over to you again.
Sure, go ahead. I mean, anybody would like to ask a question or make a comment? I mean, the whole idea of this was to make it interactive. I don't see anything on the chat line, so you can tell me.
Ganesh.
Oh, great.
Yes, sir, listening.
Yeah. Okay, first of all, it was an amazing talk. There were a lot of things which we never realized, but after listening to you, it just crossed my mind that these are also an option. These are also options available to us now. Just one thing which I wanted to, which is an observation. See, earlier, an entrepreneur would be a person who would innovate, and that is how he would be in business. But I think now the things have changed. Even as an employee, unless you're innovating, unless you, like they say, think outside the box, as an employee also is very difficult to survive. Am I right on that?
No, you're absolutely right, Sandeep ji, because what's happening, you may not be surprised. There are at least 25 to 30,000 people in the IT industry early 40s who are likely to lose their job. Kyun? Because the employer is saying, we are giving him 60 lakh salary. Usne to kuch naya to sikha nahi in the last 10 years. Might as well take a 25-year-old and pay him 20 lakhs and we are saying saving 40 lakhs. It's sad, but I have seen CEO friends of mine who have this list of people they want to get rid of. Why? Exactly the point. They've not innovated. They've not refreshed themselves. So I think, it's important for each one of us to also keep learning new things, so that we can be relevant. We may have make a lot of money, but it's important to keep staying ahead of the curve. And uske liye the point you made, innovation is the only way. And companies are using, like if you look at Bajaj Finserv, and I think I've mentioned this before, but Sanjeev Bajaj and Nanu Pamnani, God bless him, he died last year. What they did was they really brought in the culture of innovation. I mean, I was a digital advisor to Sanjeev and the group for almost a year. And we used to go off on offsites where they'll say, read these 3 books. 200 people sitting in Nimrana discussing Amazon and how Amazon's success can be an inspiration for Bajaj Finance, Bajaj Insurance, etc. That's true innovation. So I'm saying we have to be innovative. Every employee has to be innovative. Every founder has to be innovative. Can you imagine Sanjeev, Nanu, all the CEOs, me and a couple of others, 14 of us used to get onto a plane and go all over the world. First stop from Bombay, in that wonderful aircraft of Sanjeev's, fly straight to Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv say go to London, London say San Francisco, Boston, and meeting entrepreneurs everywhere. The idea being, unless we listen to the latest, we cannot be the best company in the country. So, I mean, sorry for the long answer, but I'm saying absolutely. I mean, everybody has to be innovative, starting from the top. The top has to make innovation.
Thank you so much.
Ganesh, so I have 1 or 2 questions actually.
Yes,
yeah. So this is about China and India. It's China is I mean, if you look at the situation now, China, US, of course, we recognize that it's already there, that these 2 are superpowers. And here we are, 1.4 billion, 1.5 billion people, lot of challenges. And you talked about the urban and rural. So what do we do actually to survive in this world, in India specifically, surrounded by China? We have our own problems. We have youth. But how do you get them to do something in the rural economy, which is, therefore, it doesn't sort of depend only on urban. People just don't have to move to tier 1 cities and tier 2 cities, but do something. So really take care of 2 things. One is handle this threat of China, at least perceived threat, and make the rural economy really, really grow.
It was a great question, Subhash, and let me try and answer that question, because, I mean, as you know, I'm a great China fan, and even when I think Arun Firodia was speaking, I was in the Rotary Club, I was engaging with him on, we cannot be only anti-China. Of course, today there's a lot of reasons to be anti-China, so don't get me wrong. I'm not being politically incorrect. But if you look at what I remember when I went to China, when was it? I used to go to China twice a year for almost 25 years. We set up a very successful joint venture in Aptech when I was running it. And then Zensar also, we did a lot of work in China. I remember we were looking for a center to place in China. And we didn't want to be in Beijing and Shanghai. And I landed in Hong Kong. And suddenly I got a call from the mayor of Zhuhai. You may know of Zhuhai, you may not know of Zhuhai, but Zhuhai is a little kind of an island, which is maybe by ferry, it takes about 30 minutes from Hong Kong. And they said, we understand you're here and you're an entrepreneur from India. Would you please like to come to Zhuhai and visit us? I said, look, it's not on my schedule, but this was Saturday. He said, no, you please come on Sunday. We will all work on Sunday and we will show you around our city. So I said, okay, because I didn't reach early. So I said, I'll come. They said, don't worry, our man will be there. So he came, met me, took me to the ferry. We went and we started this thing. And the mayor was there, everybody met. So he started showing me, fancy videos, audio-visual about Zhuhai, etc. There are 14 golf courses. Airport of Zhuhai is bigger than anything we had seen at that time in Delhi and Bombay. Now, of course, Delhi airport is very big. And then I said, how many people live in Zhuhai? They all looked at each other and he said, no, we've only built the city. Zhuhai will get built over, the people will come. Now, the reason I'm telling you this, Subhash, is in India, Pune, I remember when I first came to Pune in 2001, and Mukesh will laugh at this, but I remember asking the commissioner, our campus, Zensar campus was in Nagar Road in Kharadi. And he said, look, by 2004, it'll be a fantastic road all the way to Ahmednagar. Don't worry about it. Up 2004 to hua nahi hai. It was 2010. And of course, the great bus, the rapid transit bus never happened. So in India, infrastructure development happens much after people move into a city. I still believe, and I'm sorry to sound arrogant, that the reason why Pune became such a vibrant city was people like me moved physically to Pune. Okay, because you sit in Bombay and say, Pune mein bhi ek center chalu karenge, aise kuch nahi hota. So I think, in the early days, it was, Anand Deshpande, me and Ravi Pandit used to meet together and say, how do we build a city? Well, at that time, there were 2,000 IT employees. Abhi to kam se kam 15 lakh IT employees. Good or bad, you can figure out. But I'm saying that's how it changed. But it doesn't happen. It's not happening in Indore. It's not happening in Guwahati. It's not happening in Agartala. And all these places deserve to grow. And that is the Chinese example. You go to Hangzhou, you go to Suzhou, you go to Tianjin, you go to Zhuhai, and I can give you 40 other names. All of these are perfect in terms of the three infrastructure elements I mentioned. Good physical infrastructure, good digital infrastructure, good social infrastructure. Why would somebody build 14 golf courses when there's nobody in the city? It's future thinking. So ye hame karni chahiye. I mean, we have to identify, when people started talking about the Delhi-Mumbai industrial corridor, at that time, the CEO of DMIC was Amitabh Kant, who has been for the last 4 years the head of the Niti Aayog. And Amitabh used to talk about this great vision of 40 cities between Delhi and Mumbai, full infrastructure, etc. Wo kahan hua? It's not happened. It's only entrepreneurs like Mukesh Bhai and people like that who have actually, I'm sorry to say Mukesh Bhai, my friend Mukesh. Mukesh Bhai shouldn't be confused with Mukesh Ambani. But I'm saying it's entrepreneurs like Tony and so many others who have made it happen without any support. So if you have a plan, ki rural nahi bolna hai. If you look at America, people happily live in rural. My daughter lives in an apartment in Manhattan, but she's looking for a house in a place called South Salem, which is 1.5 hours from New York. She said, no, I want my child to come up in a 1 acre farmland, etc. So people are now moving to rural. But in India, we get scared. We don't want to move to farms because infrastructure. So quick answer to your question is, we have to have uniformity of physical, digital, social. Once that begins to happen in states, in provinces, in countries, I think that will make the change. We're seeing it happen in US, seeing it happen in China. I think it should happen. Japan has done it very well.
So is it then driven by the government, or somehow we know that government can't do it alone? This is a very complex issue. I know that.
I know it's a very complex issue. I remember, if you look at our industry, I remember we used to go running to a gentleman called N. Vittal, who was the secretary of Department of Electronics, which is now the Ministry of IT. And Vittal used to tell us, boss, when the going gets tough, the tough go to government. Just so true. Okay. Because for us, it's easy to say government ko sab karni chahiye, but let's face it, the government doesn't have money. Whatever Nirmala Sitharaman does in the next budget, it'll be redistribution of idhar se idhar, etc. We don't have that big pocket of money to give fiscal stimulus, etc., etc. So we have to do it ourselves. I've lived in this country for most of my life, except for 2 years in London and a year in San Jose. But we're finding that, look, India is still a good place. I'm still very positive about India, but the multiple public-private partnerships that have to be done. There's no other solution.
Ganesh, I've asked a question on chat. Yep. It's also related to India and China. You said that, we have to reduce the gap. There's a huge gap right now and, focus on the make in India. So what is it that you're implying? Is it that like as individuals, what can we do? Should we stop buying products that are made in China, or is it that micro, like what as a country and as individuals, how can we, reduce the gap?
I think we should certainly, in Mumbai, I was talking to a friend who buys New Zealand apples. I said, yaar, Himachal Pradesh or Kashmir mein itne apple hote hain. Why are you buying New Zealand apples? He said, no, it's cheaper. It's true. Because it's cheaper to get apples from New Zealand than to get it in cold chains from all the way from Himachal. But as well-to-do people, as people who are enlightened, we should be a little more, of course. I'm a great supporter of, as you know, of the artisans of Kutch. So we're saying, okay, fine. What, let's say, they are making may not be as high quality as something you will buy in an Italian shop, but yeah, Indian buy Corona. So wherever we can, why should we buy toys for our grandchildren which are Chinese made? Why should we not buy something from India which may not be that good or may not that good? I think wherever possible, yes. But I'm also a great believer. For instance, suppose one day you said, the pharmaceutical company, nothing should come from China. The pharmaceutical industry will close down. because 75% of the APIs, which are the basic ingredients to pharma, come from China. Rare earths. I mean, if you look at any rare earth, it comes from China. So it has to be, in fact, that's something we are writing in our book, and hopefully we'll talk to people like Mukesh who are part of PIC first, and then to the government saying, look, let us be practical about हमें China के साथ कैसे deal करना है, and not go on to high horse कि मैं Chinese खरीदूंगा नहीं. Chinese unnecessary से चीज मत खरीदो. But where China is important as part of our supply chain, we really don't have a choice. At least, as Dr. Mashelkar very rightly says, we cannot be China-less. We can first go to less China, and from less China to China-less. But those steps are very important for any company, any country to progress.
Thank you. I think we are running out of time, but still one question. If anybody want to ask, can go ahead with the last question, please.
Can I ask a question? Can I ask a question?
I have asked the question in chat box.
Sorry.
Okay, Jailam, you can go ahead.
See, will this digital India continue? Even the government same government is not there, because in India projects move with the government. So what are your thoughts on?
Jailam, I saw your chat question also. No, don't worry. I mean, see, there are some things where the momentum will carry it forward. I mean, the reason why our industry, IT industry, was successful is, and Pramod Mahajanji used to say that. I think I've mentioned this before. The first IT minister used to say, there are only two industries which are globally successful from India. That was the year when Aishwarya Rai and Sushmita Sen had become Miss India, Miss Universe. So Pramod said, beauty and IT are the only successful industries from India, because neither of them need the support of government. And he used to say it as a joke. But today, if you look at it, I think industries which grow well, and I think it will happen with electronics, it will happen with auto manufacturing. So all this, I think, will change. And I mean, this is one, Digital India is an initiative which will span political parties. Kal ko agar BJP nahi hua and somebody else comes in for Digital India. In fact, every government has been talking about Digital India for the last 10 years. They changed the name from Digital India, from National Optic Fiber Network to BharatNet to NOFN in the recent speech. But people realize that ये तो करना ही है, so not to worry about.
Thank you very much. We should stop. Yeah, we should stop the question and answer session here. Please allow me to do that. I know there are so many. They are having question answer in the mind. But you can ask to Ganesh ji later on with your questions. And Ganesh ji, I am very happy and privileged that you, as a keynote speaker, and that you have proved that our fellow Rotarians are not less than the speakers we are inviting, rather better than those. So thank you very much. I will request all the fellow Rotarians to please put their hands and give very big hand to Dr. Ganesh Natarajan. Thank you very much. Thank you. Before going for who could be better than Mukesh ji to extend formal vote of thanks to Dr. Ganesh. But before that, I would take out 2 minutes. There are some esteemed guests which I would like to personally welcome them. Ruchi Mathur is there, Subhas Bal is there, SBM Philanthropy Foundation, Alok Baraya, Ajay Bhore, Rajesh Battis, Binay Bazoria, and Jyoti. You all have joined this evening. We are very grateful to you. Thank you very much. You have made us proud. So not taking much time, I request Mukesh ji to, who is, he is charter member and he is honorable member advisory board Rotary Club Pune Riverside, to do this honor. So over to Mukesh ji.
Good morning, friends. I have known Ganesh for as long as he's been in Pune, and it's always been a pleasure to sit with him and talk to him. And I've always learned very much from him, just as all of us, I think, today have learned a lot. Many things one tends to know, but one doesn't, they don't unless they're highlighted by people, you don't sort of give them any thought. And I think Ganesh has given us a lot of food for thought, since he's our own member and for which he said that I'm responsible. I thank him on behalf of the club, of course, and on my personal behalf for giving us a lovely talk. And all those, I know that almost every member would have some questions or the other. And I'm sure that since he's our own member, we can always take him offline and discuss with him. I'm really looking forward to the book that he is co-authoring with our PIC, other PIC members, which will be coming out soon. And I think on behalf of all of us, all I can say is thank you, Ganesh. It's great to have you with us. And we look forward to many more enlightening, inverted commas, enlightening meetings like this, where you can give us some more of your thoughts and get us to be a little more, provoke us into thinking a little more about the future. Thank you very much. And have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mukeshji. Thought of the week is the tradition from the very beginning. So for that, I would like to invite Rotarian Prerna Gaikwad. So over to Prerna.
Ganesh, that was really a good talk. It's a lot of food for thought for all of us. Talking about digitalization and innovation, there's something that just came to my mind, which says, you never really stop learning because life never stops teaching. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Joke of the week is also one continuing and good tradition of Rotary Club Pune Riverside. And I would like to invite a specialist in this area, Rotarian Sandeep Bass, who is Honorable Member Advisory Board. So open to Sandeep ji.
Thank you, Karnazab, and good morning, everybody. I didn't know that you could become a specialist at telling jokes also. No, that's good. So when Ganesh was talking of that you borrow somebody else's assets and promote it to others, and you can make, and loan it to others for a short duration of time, you could make money. I got reminded of a joke, which I heard when I was probably 3 or 4 years old. And that time, the bigger powers used to be USSR, of course, America, and people used to say China, Japan is a technology place. So once USSR decided that they want to impress upon America what they can do, so they made a wire which was almost so thin that nobody could see it. And they sent it to America as a proof of how technologically advanced they are. Now, Americans, not to be left behind, what they did is they drilled a hole through that wire and sent it back to USSR. USSR said, oh, this is amazing. So they said, okay, let's check how advanced Japan is. So they sent it to Japan. Japan, in their innovation, they cut threads through that wire inside and outside and sent it back to USSR. And then they get a request from India. Okay, you have not tried us. So they send it to India, and India sends it back to them packed in a nice box. And they look through the wire and they can't see anything which is different from what it was originally as they had received it from Japan. So they get slightly concerned about it, and they send it to somebody and say, okay, please find out what is different about this wire than when it was sent to India. He looks at it carefully and says, okay, have you checked the box? It is written on that box, made in India.
That's great. That's great. Thank you. Thank you. Friends, coming Wednesday, 27th January morning, 8:30, we have scheduled another interesting talk on global philanthropy by Ms. Nilima Thota. Please block day, date, and time in your calendar and make it a point to attend in large number. Before closing, I would like to extend my thanks to Niruji, Mukeshji, Prerna, and Sandeep for doing additional honor. And before closing, once again, I would like to extend warm welcome to all the participants and the students who have joined. And a special thank to Ganeshji once again, Dr. Ganesh Natarajan, for your stunning talk. So with these, please allow me to end this meeting because we have already overshooted. So thank you very much. Have I permission, Dr. Ganesh, to end the meeting?
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.